Ethan Collins was a normal man living in a small American city. He had a quiet life, working in a local repair shop and helping his neighbors when they needed him. He was not famous or rich, and he did not expect anything amazing to happen to him. Most days, he walked to work and back, cooked simple meals, and watched the news before going to bed. His friends liked him because he was honest and always tried to do the right thing even when no one was looking. One night, Ethan was walking home after a long day. The air was cool and the sky was clear. Suddenly, the streetlights flickered and went out. People came out of their homes, looking up at the sky. There was a huge glowing ship hovering above the city. It was bigger than any building Ethan had ever seen. The ship was silent, but bright blue and green lights shone from its sides. Everyone stood still, not sure if they should be scared or amazed. Without warning, a beam of soft white light came down from the ship. It wrapped around Ethan before he could move or speak. He felt himself being lifted off the ground. He looked down and saw his city growing smaller and smaller. In a few moments, he was inside the alien ship, standing in a round room with shining walls and no windows. The floor felt warm under his feet, and the air smelled sweet, like fresh rain. Ethan tried to stay calm, but his heart was beating fast. Before he could ask any questions, a door opened in front of him. He walked through it and found himself in a huge hall. The ceiling was covered in silver patterns that moved and changed like clouds. At the end of the hall was a throne made of clear crystal. Sitting on the throne was a tall woman with silver hair and blue eyes that seemed to glow. She wore a long robe that looked like it was made from starlight. Around her stood many strange beings, each one different, with colorful skin and shining clothes. The woman stood up and smiled at Ethan. She spoke in a calm voice that he could understand, even though her lips did not move. She said her name was Lyra, and she was the queen of a great empire that ruled many planets. She told Ethan not to be afraid. She said her people had watched Earth for a long time and wanted to learn more about humans. Every few years, she chose a human to visit her palace. She explained that as a sign of peace, she would grant Ethan 3 wishes. He could wish for almost anything he wanted, as long as it did not hurt others or break the rules of her empire. Ethan was surprised and did not know what to say. He looked around and saw that all the aliens in the hall were watching him. He tried to speak, but his voice shook. He asked why she had picked him. Queen Lyra smiled and said that sometimes the best way to know a people is to choose someone who is not famous or powerful. She believed that ordinary people often have the best ideas and the biggest hearts. Ethan stood quietly for a moment. He thought about what it would mean to have 3 wishes. He could ask for money, power, or even to go home. But as he looked into the queen's kind eyes, he felt that this was something much bigger than himself. The queen told Ethan that he did not have to make his wishes right away. She wanted him to spend some time in her palace, learn about her people, and see what was possible. She gave him a small silver badge to wear on his shirt. The badge would let him go anywhere in the palace and talk to anyone he wanted. A gentle alien named Zara came to his side and promised to help him. Zara showed Ethan his room, which had soft lights and a bed that felt like sleeping on clouds. Ethan lay down and tried to sleep, but his mind was full of questions. He wondered what kind of wishes other people had made before him. He wondered what he should wish for and if his choices could help more than just himself. He looked out the window and saw many stars shining in the sky. He thought about his family, his friends, and the people of Earth. For the first time, Ethan realized that he might have the chance to change many lives, not just his own. As he closed his eyes, he promised himself that he would try to make wishes that were good for everyone, not only for himself. Far away, Queen Lyra watched from her throne and wondered what kind of man this human would prove to be. The next morning, Ethan woke up to a soft light filling his room. He sat up and looked around. The room was not like any place he had ever stayed. The walls were smooth and glowed gently. There were no corners, only soft curves. The bed was so comfortable that it felt like he had slept on air. He touched the silver badge on his shirt and remembered everything that had happened. He was really in an alien palace, and he had 3 wishes. Zara, the friendly alien guide, came into the room and smiled at him. She was tall with smooth gray skin and gentle eyes. She spoke in clear English, her voice kind and calm. Zara asked Ethan how he slept and if he was hungry. Ethan said he was a little hungry, so Zara led him through the quiet halls of the palace. The halls were full of light and color. Strange plants grew in clear pots, their leaves shining like jewels. Soft music played from somewhere, and the air always smelled fresh. As they walked, Zara explained that the palace was the heart of Queen Lyra's empire. Aliens from many worlds came here to share ideas and solve problems together. The queen wanted her people to live in peace, but it was not always easy. Sometimes, even with all their technology, there were still arguments, sadness, and trouble in the galaxy. Zara took Ethan to a dining hall where many aliens were eating. The food looked strange but smelled wonderful. There were bowls of fruit that sparkled in the light and drinks that changed color when poured. Ethan was careful at first but soon found that most of the food tasted good, like sweet berries or warm bread. He laughed when Zara showed him how to eat a round blue fruit by rolling it on the table until it opened by itself. After breakfast, Zara gave Ethan a tour of the palace. They visited a room full of books and screens where anyone could learn about the galaxy. Ethan saw stories of planets he had never heard of and pictures of children playing under three suns. He also learned about problems in the empire. Some planets had too little water, others had too much rain, and some places were very poor. Even the queen could not fix everything by herself. Ethan asked Zara about the wishes other humans had made before. Zara told him that most people wished for things like money, a long life, or to be made rulers of a small world. Some had asked to go home with treasures. A few wished to become famous. The queen always gave them what they asked, but many of these people never returned to visit. Zara said that Queen Lyra hoped to see something different in Ethan. Ethan thought about this. As they walked through a beautiful garden, there were bright flowers and pools of clear water, and small birds sang in the branches. Zara told him that the queen wanted to understand what was important to humans, not just what they wanted for themselves. She hoped that Ethan would take his time and think carefully. Later, Ethan was invited to watch the queen hold court. Many aliens came to see her, asking for help with their problems. One group asked for help with sick children on their world. Another group needed help with rebuilding after a storm. Queen Lyra listened kindly and tried to help everyone. Sometimes, her advisors spoke for a long time about the best way to solve a problem. Ethan noticed that some of the aliens looked at him with interest or even with doubt. He felt nervous, but Zara reminded him that he was the guest of honor. As the day ended, Ethan returned to his room and thought about what he had seen. He was glad that he had not made a quick wish. He wanted to use his wishes to help more than just himself. He remembered the sick children, the poor planets, and the people who needed hope. He felt both small and important at the same time. That night, Zara brought him a small device that let him see messages from people across the galaxy. Some were kind, welcoming him to the palace. Others warned him not to trust everyone. A few children sent simple messages of hope, saying they wished for a better life. Ethan read them all and felt the weight of his choices. He wondered what would happen if he could make a wish that helped all these people before going to sleep. Ethan walked to the window and looked out at the stars. He thought about Earth, his family, and how much he missed his home. But he also felt that he was part of something much bigger now. He promised himself again that he would not waste his chance. Far away, Queen Lyra watched the night sky too, thinking about the human visitor and wondering what he would wish for when the time came. The morning of Ethan's first wish arrived quickly. He woke up early, his heart pounding. He had spent many hours thinking about what to wish for. He had walked the palace gardens, listened to Zara's stories, and read the messages from across the galaxy. He wanted to make a wish that mattered. He was still unsure, but he knew he could not wait any longer. Zara met Ethan at his door and gave him a gentle smile. She saw that he was nervous and told him it was normal to feel that way. She led him through the bright hallways to the throne room, which was even more grand than he remembered. The floor was polished like glass. The ceiling was covered with moving stars as if the whole galaxy was inside. Many aliens filled the room, standing in circles and speaking softly. Some looked at Ethan with friendly eyes, others with curiosity, and a few with suspicion. Queen Lyra sat on her crystal throne, dressed in robes of silver and blue. She looked calm, but her eyes followed Ethan closely. When he reached the center of the hall, a soft sound filled the air. The voices faded away and all eyes turned to Ethan. The queen stood and welcomed him, her voice echoing softly. She reminded him that he could wish for anything as long as it would not harm others or break the rules of her empire. She wanted him to speak from his heart. Ethan took a deep breath. His hands trembled, but he tried to stand tall. He thought about all the people he had seen in the palace. He remembered the stories of children who were scared at night and of families who lost their homes. He also thought about Earth, where so many children needed help too. When Ethan finally spoke, his voice was quiet but strong. He said he wanted his first wish to help not just himself, but everyone in the galaxy. He wished for every child, human or alien, to have a safe place to sleep at night, no matter where they lived. He wished for shelters and protection for all children, so they would not have to be afraid or alone. The room was silent for a long moment. Many of the aliens looked surprised. No one had expected such a wish. Even the queen seemed unable to speak at first. Her advisors whispered among themselves, wondering if it was possible to grant a wish so large and so kind. Queen Lyra finally spoke. She asked Ethan if he was sure about his wish. Ethan nodded. He said that he had seen and heard many things in the palace. He believed that helping the children was the most important thing he could do. The queen looked at him for a long time, then nodded slowly. She said that she would try to make his wish come true. The queen raised her hands and her advisors began to work quickly. They used their technology to send messages to every world in the empire. Builders, doctors, and helpers were sent to planets where children needed shelter. Giant ships carried supplies to places that had been forgotten. Robots and machines were built to protect children in dangerous places. The queen's people worked together, and soon shelters started to appear everywhere in the galaxy. News spread fast. Families across many worlds heard about the human's wish. Children who used to sleep outside now had beds and soft lights. On cold worlds, warm homes appeared. On hot planets, cool shelters grew from the ground. The children laughed and played, safe for the first time in their lives. Parents sent messages of thanks to the queen and to Ethan. Even some of the aliens who did not like humans began to change their minds. In the palace, Ethan watched the news with Zara. He saw pictures of children smiling, holding new toys, and eating warm meals. He felt both happy and amazed. Zara told him that no one in the queen's court had ever made a wish like his. Most people wanted things for themselves, not for others. Queen Lyra invited Ethan to speak with her alone. She thanked him for his wish and said it had opened her eyes. She confessed that she had started to lose hope in people's kindness. Ethan's wish reminded her that there was still good in the galaxy. She told him that the shelters would stay forever and that her empire would always care for children, thanks to his wish. As the sun set on the palace, a celebration began. Music played and everyone enjoyed food and stories. Ethan was the guest of honor, but he stayed quiet, thinking about what had happened. He knew he had more wishes, and he wanted to use them just as wisely. For now, he was glad that his first wish had made such a difference. In the quiet of his room that night, Ethan felt proud and hopeful for the first time since coming to the palace. After Ethan made his first wish, the palace was full of excitement and talk. All the aliens spoke about the change that had started because of one human wish. The story of Ethan's wish spread quickly, not just inside the palace, but across many planets. In small homes, big cities, and faraway villages, parents and children thanked the human visitor who had thought of their safety. New screens showed children from many worlds sleeping peacefully in new shelters. Some worlds even started to call Ethan the Wish Friend. Ethan did not like being called a hero. He often walked quietly through the palace gardens, trying to understand the new world around him. He saw that even in this place of wonder, there were still problems. Not every person in the court was happy. Some aliens whispered that Ethan had made things more difficult by wishing for something so big. Others said he was trying to impress the Queen, but many aliens respected him more and started to talk to him about their own dreams and troubles. Queen Lyra began to spend more time with Ethan. She invited him to join her at the royal table, where he learned about alien foods and customs. She asked him questions about Earth, wanting to know about simple things like friendship, family, and kindness. Ethan answered honestly, sometimes feeling shy, but always trying to share what he believed was important. He told Lara about the power of helping others, and how small acts of kindness could change people's lives. Ethan learned more about Lyra as well. The Queen was powerful, but her job was lonely. She had many advisors, but few real friends. Sometimes she looked tired, and Ethan saw her hiding her worries. She told him that ruling the empire was hard work. People always needed her help, and it was not easy to make everyone happy. Ethan listened and did not try to give advice. He just let her talk, and Lyra seemed to feel better afterward. One day, Ethan joined Lyra in a meeting with her council. They talked about the work needed to finish the shelters on every world. Some council members were unhappy because the wish was so big and expensive. They worried that helping children in poor places would take resources away from rich planets. Lyra listened to everyone but stayed firm. She said that Ethan's wish was a gift for the whole galaxy, not just a few. She reminded her council that they were strong only when all their people were safe. Some members left the meeting angry, but others thanked Ethan. They said they had forgotten what true hope felt like until now. After the meeting, Lyra and Ethan walked together in the garden. Lyra told Ethan she wished she could always be strong, but sometimes she felt weak inside. Ethan smiled and said that being a good leader meant having both strength and kindness. Lyra laughed and said that Earth must be full of wise people if everyone thought like him. Everywhere Ethan went, aliens greeted him warmly. Children ran up to him in the halls and gave him pictures they had drawn. One little girl from a water planet gave him a shell from her home. Ethan felt a happiness he had never known before. Even Zara, who was usually quiet, told Ethan she was proud to be his friend, but not everyone liked the changes. A group of court nobles thought humans were simple and did not belong in the palace. They said Ethan would waste his next wishes on more impossible ideas. Ethan heard their words and felt sad, but he tried not to let it change his heart. One evening, as the sun set outside the palace windows, Lyra asked Ethan to join her on the balcony. The sky was full of colors, and they could see the stars beginning to shine. Lyra told Ethan that she was glad he had come. She said his wish had reminded her of what she loved about being queen. She wanted to know what he would wish for next. Ethan told her he was still thinking. He said he wanted to help everyone, not just a few. Lyra nodded and said that sometimes the hardest wishes were the best ones. She thanked him again and said that, because of him, the galaxy had become a kinder place. As night fell, Ethan stood looking at the stars. He knew he would soon have to make his second wish. He wanted to do it right. He promised himself again that he would not waste his chance. Somewhere on many different worlds, children were falling asleep safe and warm. Ethan hoped that one day all people would feel the same way. Ethan spent many days thinking about his next wish. He walked through the palace, listened to the voices in the halls, and watched the busy workers who helped build the new shelters. Sometimes children would run up to him and thank him for his first wish. They would show him their new rooms or tell him about their dreams for the future. Ethan was happy, but he also saw new problems. He noticed that, even with safe places to sleep, some children and families still had no clean water to drink or good food to eat. Some planets had little rain, while others were too dry or too crowded to grow enough food. Zara noticed Ethan's worries. She told him stories about her own world, where rivers would dry up for months, and people would travel far to find water. She said that even in the Queen's great empire, life could be hard for many. Ethan listened to Zara and the other aliens. He started to understand that his second wish should help with one of the galaxy's biggest problems. One morning, Queen Lyra called Ethan to her throne room. The room was filled with her council and many guests from other worlds. The queen smiled at Ethan and said she was proud of the change his first wish had brought. She told him that he had given hope to many. Now she wanted to know his second wish. Ethan stood in front of everyone and spoke clearly, though his voice was soft. He wished for a system that would help all people, both human and alien, find clean water and enough food wherever they lived. He wished that no one would ever go hungry or thirsty again, no matter how far or strange their home was. The room was quiet as Ethan finished. The council members looked at one another, unsure if such a wish could be granted. Some said it was too big, while others worried about how the system would work. Queen Lyra listened to every voice. She stood and said that Ethan's wish was brave and good. She ordered her best scientists and workers to start right away. The Queen's scientists began building machines that could clean water and turn dry land into rich soil. They sent small flying robots called helpers to search for people in need. The helpers carried water, seeds, and food to places that had nothing. New gardens grew on planets that had never seen green plants before. Springs of fresh water bubbled up in dry valleys. Villages that once struggled to survive now had enough to eat and drink. News of the change spread quickly. Families cheered as they watched water flow in their towns for the first time. Children danced in the rain on worlds where it had never rained before. Farmers learned how to use new tools and share food with their neighbors. Even the palace cooks were happy because they now had many new foods to try and share. Ethan watched the new screens in wonder. He could see that his wish was making life better for millions of people. Zara smiled at him and said she was proud to call him a friend. She said that no visitor had ever used their wishes to help so many. Ethan felt shy, but he was glad he had listened to the stories of those in need. Queen Lyra grew even closer. To Ethan, she often asked for his advice on other problems. She shared with him her own hopes and fears for the empire. Lyra told Ethan that she had been afraid the people would not accept such big changes. But now, many were happier and healthier. She said that sometimes it takes a new voice to help old leaders see what is possible. Not all in the palace were pleased. A few nobles were still jealous or afraid that humans would become too important in the queen's court. They whispered in the halls and tried to make trouble, but most people did not listen. The stories of happy families and growing gardens were stronger than any rumors. One evening, Ethan joined a festival in the palace garden. There was music and lights hung from the trees. People from many worlds danced and shared food from their homes. Ethan tasted spicy bread from a desert planet and sweet fruit juice from a world of rivers. Children sang songs in their own languages and everyone clapped along. Queen Lyra stood next to Ethan and told him he had brought new life to her empire. As the stars came out, Ethan looked around and felt a deep joy. He saw that kindness and hope could bring people together, no matter where they were from. He remembered his promise to use his wishes for good, and he knew he had kept it. But he also knew he still had one more wish to make. He wanted it to be the most important of all. That night, Ethan looked out at the galaxy and wondered what he should wish for next. He hoped he could find a way to help not just people's bodies, but also their hearts. He wanted his final wish to give everyone a chance to be truly happy. Ethan could feel the weight of his final wish pressing on his mind. He had seen what good his first two wishes had done, but he knew there was still something missing. He walked through the palace every day, meeting aliens from different worlds. He listened to their stories and learned that even with safety, water, and food, some people were still not happy. Some felt alone or afraid, while others were lost and did not know what to do with their lives. Queen Lyra noticed Ethan's quiet mood. She invited him to join her in the library, where the walls were filled with glowing books from many worlds. They sat together in soft chairs, and the queen asked Ethan what he was thinking about. Ethan told her he wanted his last wish to help everyone find real happiness, not just comfort or safety. He said he had seen that people could have everything they needed but still feel empty inside. Lyra agreed. She told Ethan about the pressure she felt as a leader, how even with all her power, she sometimes felt alone and misunderstood. She said that many in her empire felt the same way, even if they would never say it out loud. Lyra said she hoped Ethan's last wish would inspire people to help each other find joy and meaning. Ethan spent many nights walking the palace halls and gardens. Sometimes he watched the stars from his window. Sometimes he talked with Zara and other friends he had made. He asked everyone what made them truly happy. He listened to their answers. Some spoke about family and friends, others about music or art, and some about helping others. Ethan realized that happiness was different for every person, but everyone wanted to feel accepted and free to follow their dreams. The day for the last wish finally came. The palace was full of guests from across the galaxy. Many were excited, hoping that Ethan would make another wish that would change their lives. A few nobles still doubted him, but most people watched with hope in their hearts. Ethan felt nervous, but ready. He stood before Queen Lyra and the court. He said that his first wish was for safety, and his second was for health. Now, he wished for everyone in the galaxy to have one true chance to follow something that brought them real happiness, without fear or judgment from others. He wished for a world where every person, human or alien, could find their own dream and feel free to try. The Queen's advisors were surprised. They asked how such a wish could be granted. They said that happiness was not something that could be given like a house or a meal. Ethan agreed, but he said that sometimes what people needed most was the freedom to try without others holding them back. Queen Lyra understood what Ethan meant. She stood and said that the wish would be granted, not with machines or magic, but with new laws and ideas. She called her leaders and teachers together and told them to create a movement across the empire. She wanted every school to teach children that their dreams were important. She wanted leaders on every planet to give people time and support, to follow what made them happy, even if it was something small. Soon, the idea of Ethan's third wish spread across the galaxy. People began to talk about what made them happy. Some started to paint, sing, or write stories. Others opened small shops or learned new skills. Young people were given a chance to travel and see new worlds. Old people were respected for their wisdom and invited to teach others. Everyone, no matter their age or background, was given a chance to try something they loved, at least once in their life. At first, not everyone understood the change. Some people were afraid of failing or being laughed at. But slowly, with help from friends and family, more and more people found the courage to follow their dreams. There were festivals where people showed what they had learned. There were quiet rooms where people could think and imagine. The whole empire started to feel lighter and more joyful. Ethan watched all of this and felt proud. He had wanted to help people not just survive, but truly live. He saw that even Queen Lyra changed. She smiled more and invited her people to share their dreams with her. She became not just a ruler, but a friend to many. Zara told Ethan that his wishes had done something no one had thought was possible. She said that the galaxy had become kinder and more hopeful because he had believed in the good of others. Even the nobles who once doubted him began to see the value of his wishes. As the sun set on another day, Ethan walked in the palace gardens. With Queen Lyra and Zara, they watched the stars and listened to the sound of laughter from a festival below. Ethan knew his time at the palace was almost over. He felt a little sad, but he was also full of hope. He had seen how one person could make a difference, and he believed that the galaxy would keep changing for the better long after he was gone. Ethan watched the changes in the galaxy grow stronger every day. He often walked through the palace, and people from many worlds came to thank him. Some brought him gifts like small carvings, letters, or flowers from their home planets. Others just wanted to shake his hand or tell him how their lives had changed. Everywhere he went, Ethan saw signs of hope and happiness. Schools had new music rooms and art classes. Fields were full of healthy crops, and children played in safe parks. On every world, people were not just surviving, but smiling and working together. Queen Lyra was happy too. She greeted her people with a warm smile and listened to their ideas and dreams. She invited children and workers to the palace so they could share their stories. The Queen's court felt different now. There was more laughter, more kindness, and more trust. Even the nobles who once doubted Ethan's wishes now said that the empire was stronger than ever. Some apologized to Ethan and admitted they had been wrong. Ethan became close friends with Zara. She liked to tell him about new projects on her home planet, like schools built in places where there were none before. She shared stories about how her family was now able to grow fruit in their garden, thanks to the new water system. Ethan liked to listen. He realized that these simple changes were just as important as any big wish, but soon, Ethan's time at the palace was coming to an end. One evening, Queen Lyra invited Ethan to a quiet room filled with soft lights and gentle music. She thanked him for everything he had done for her people and for her. She told him that he had changed her heart. She said she had learned from him that being a leader was not just about rules and power, but also about listening, caring, and helping others grow. Queen Lyra said she wanted to offer Ethan a place in her court forever. He could stay, be her advisor, and help guide the empire for years to come. She said that with his wisdom and heart, he could help many more people. She even said that she had come to care for him not only as a friend, but as someone she trusted deeply. Ethan felt honored. He liked the palace, the friends he had made, and the chance to help so many. But he also missed Earth. He thought of his family and his old life. He missed the sound of rain on his window, the taste of fresh bread, and the simple feeling of being home. He asked Queen Lyra if he could have some time to decide. That night, Ethan walked through the palace gardens. The stars above were brighter than ever. He met Zara and told her about the queen's offer. Zara said she would miss him if he left, but she understood. She said that sometimes the best thing a person could do was go home and share what they had learned. She told Ethan that he had already given the galaxy so much. The next morning, Ethan made his decision. He went to the throne room, where the queen and her advisors were waiting. The court was full, and everyone watched him closely. Ethan thanked Queen Lyra for her kindness and her trust. He said he was honored to be part of her world, even for a short time. But he explained that his heart belonged on Earth with his family and friends. He wanted to take everything he had learned back home and share it with his own people. Queen Lyra smiled sadly, but she understood. She promised Ethan that he would always have a place in her court should he ever wish to return. She gave him a small crystal, which would let him visit her palace anytime he wished. Zara hugged Ethan and gave him a simple necklace, a sign of their friendship. The day Ethan left, the whole palace gathered to say goodbye. Aliens from many worlds waved and cheered. The queen wished Ethan a safe journey and thanked him again for his wishes. As he stepped into the soft light that would send him home, Ethan looked back one last time and waved. When Ethan opened his eyes, he was back in his city on Earth. The world seemed smaller and quieter, but he felt different. He remembered the faces of the children he had helped, the gardens, the laughter, and the queen's wise words. Ethan knew he would never forget his time among the stars. From that day on, Ethan lived his life with more kindness and hope. He helped his neighbors, listened to their dreams, and always tried to make his part of the world a better place. Sometimes, at night, he looked at the stars and wondered how his friends in the palace were doing. He hoped that somewhere out there, Queen Lyra, Zara, and all the children of the galaxy were living happy lives, and the galaxy changed by Ethan's wishes was filled with hope, unity, and the promise that even the smallest wish could make the universe brighter for everyone.